We had a presidential breakfast this morning, and about 20 minutes ago we adopted the program for October, and I would like to brief you on what will happen in October under our presidency. The Council's agenda for October is very packed, and it's most of the time the case with other presidencies as well. The reason for it is a mandate cycle, as we call it, the reports of the Secretary General that need to be discussed, and the resolutions on the respective mandates that should be adopted. This October, the UN Security Council will also travel to Addis Ababa to hold annual joint consultative meeting with members of the African Union Peace and Security Council. That's, you know, an alternating event. This time it's the African Union that hosts that meeting. The two councils are expected to discuss the issues of mutual interest related to the regional agenda, and we, as Russia, are honored to be leading the UN Security Council to Addis, together with our co-leads Somalia. We attach particular importance to the meeting with the AU Peace and Security Council and overall engagement with the African Union and African countries, both nationally and in our presidential capacity. As you may have heard, a new department in the Foreign Ministry on partnerships with Africa has been established recently in the Russian Foreign Ministry. This shows our commitment to strengthening even further our ties with African friends, which are historically very close. So clearly the visit to Addis will be the highlight of our presidency. Another two highlights will be our signature events. The first one will be on October 23rd, an open debate on the Middle East. It is a mandated quarterly meeting, but we have plans to elevate its level. The unfolding catastrophe in Gaza will be in the focus of the Council's attention this day, and we expect Deputy Special Coordinator Ramiz Alakbarov to brief the Council. On October 24th, we celebrate the United Nations Day, the 80th anniversary of the day when the UN Charter entered into force. We plan to celebrate it in the Council by an open debate, which will be an opportunity to reaffirm that the United Nations is not a relic of the past, but a unique and indispensable adaptable mechanism for addressing most pressing challenges of the present and the future. The title of the meeting is UN, Looking into the Future. We plan to land the debate around several key issues, such as strict implementation of the principles of the UN Charter in their entirety and interconnectedness, restoring confidence in the organization and long-term vision for the future. We expect the Secretary General to brief the Council. We already see much interest among the Member States for this meeting and hope that it will be an engaging and timely exchange. Another highlight, we will hold an open debate on women, peace and security on October the 6th. As you may know, it is the 25th anniversary of the UN Security Council Seminal Resolution 1325. Technically speaking, it is a mandated meeting rather than a signature event, but it will definitely be in the limelight since the topic is very relevant. You know how packed is the Security Council chamber when this issue is being discussed. And you should recall, and I would remind those who forgot, that the Soviet Union pioneered the women's agenda more than 100 years ago, promoting equal rights for women, while in the West they had to struggle for another several decades about it. We expect the Secretary General to brief the Council for this open debate. We also plan to invite two women civil society briefers to share their experiences on the matter at hand, and we will share their names soon. And I can assure you, you won't be disappointed to hear them. Turning to other mandated meetings, after the UN floating holiday tomorrow, we will start our deliberations on October 3rd with a briefing and consultations on Colombia with the new SRSG there, whom you all know very well, Miroslav Yencha. He will present the Secretary General's report. On October 7th, we have a briefing on cooperation between the UN and the African Union. SRSG Parfait Ananga Anyanga will present the report of the Secretary General. We also expect EU Commissioner for Political Affairs and Peace and Security, Bankole Adeoye, and ASG Marta Pobi to brief the Council. On October 8th, we plan to hold a private meeting on Somalia and Al-Shabaab sanctions. We expect to hear briefings from SRSG James Swan, EU Commission Special Representative El Hadji Diene, as well as from my colleague from Panama, Ambassador Lo Alfaro de Alba, in his capacity as chair of the 2713 Committee. October 9th will be fully devoted to the Middle East. In the morning, we have consultations on Yemen with Special Envoy Hans Grunberg and OCHA representative as briefers. In the afternoon, the consultations on the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force will take place. On October 10th, we will have consultations on MINURSO, which is Western Sahara, with both personal envoy Staffan de Mistura and SRSG Alexander Ivanko briefing the Council. The week starting from October 13th is mostly reserved for the Council's visit to Addis to hold annual joint consultative meeting with the members of the African Union Peace and Security Council, as I said. They will take place on 16th and 17th of October in Addis. Before that, on October 13th in the morning, we are planning to hold a briefing and consultations on Great Lakes region, where Special Envoy Juan Xia will present SG report. After lunch on the same day, consultations on the implementation of Resolution 1559 on Lebanon are scheduled. On October 14th, a briefing and consultations on UNSMIL, UN support mission in Libya, are scheduled with SRSG Hannah Tete as a briefer. This meeting will be hopefully preceded by adoption of the resolution on Haiti sanctions. The third full week of the month will start for the Council on Tuesday, September 21st, with a briefing on UNMIC, UN Interim Administration Mission in Kosovo. Deputy SRSG Mirbert Don Jun Shin will present the Secretary General's report. TCC meeting on MINUSCA, which is Central African Republic mission, is scheduled in the afternoon. October 22nd in the morning, we will have a briefing and consultations on political and humanitarian aspects of the situation in Syria with Najat Rojdi, Deputy Special Envoy. The briefing in the afternoon, a briefing and consultations on Haiti will take place, and the new SRSG there, whom you also know very well, Carlos Ruiz Maciot, will present the report of the Secretary General. As you may be aware, the week starting on October 27th is the International Law Week. So a traditional private meeting is scheduled on October 29th to hear a briefing by the ICJ President Yuji Iwasawa. No meetings of the Council are scheduled for October 27th, as we intend to use this day for the spillovers of the two open debates, namely on the Middle East and the UN anniversary. On October 28th, we will have a briefing and consultations on MINUSCA, which is a UN multi-dimensional integrated stabilization mission on CAR, where SRSG Valentin Rugvabiza will present the Secretary General's report. On October 29th, we tentatively plan the adoption of two resolutions on the mandate of MINURSA, which is the mission for the referendum in Western Sahara, and UN-VMC, which is the UN verification mission in Colombia. But the actual timeline will, of course, depend on the pen holders. On the last day of our presidency, October 31st, we have scheduled the adoption of the resolution on the authorization of the EUFOR Althea force in Bosnia and Herzegovina, followed by a debate on the same topic. As for the informal wrap-up, the so-called Toledo formula. We are planning to do it on the last day of our presidency, October 31st. As for the working methods, they have remained unchanged for the last 80 years. You know that the Russian presidency is all about following the procedure, enforcing the efficiency, if needed, of course. And we will not hesitate to restore the order in the chamber and demand that delegations respect the decorum. So that's it, dear colleagues. I'm ready for your questions or comments.
Thank you, Ambassador. The first question, Valeria Rebecca, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for the press briefing. And on behalf of ANCA, we wish you the best of luck for the busy month ahead. It's Valeria Rebecca from ANSA Newswire. So my question is on Iran. There's nothing on the Council scheduled yet, but do you plan, like, I don't know, informal consultation, or do you see the chance of more, you know, diplomatic discussion on the JCPOA and to avoid the return of the sanction? Thank you so much.
Our Western colleagues who initiated the so-called snapback, the legitimacy of which we do not recognize, they keep saying that they are open for diplomatic solutions, although they forfeited a diplomatic solution already by initiating an illegal procedure, being serial violators of 2231, by reintroducing sanctions on the transition day of 2023 when some of them expired. You know that Russia and China offered to extend the time of the resolution 2231 to give diplomacy a chance, which they basically killed. We do not recognize the snapback as coming into force. We wrote a letter on the eve of Friday and on Saturday, signed by Minister Lavrov, addressed to the first letter was a joint letter by the foreign ministers of Iran, China, and Russia. The last one I'm referring to, which is of Saturday, it was a letter signed by Minister Lavrov addressed to the Secretary General, advising and warning him not to rush with the implementation of the illegal snapback, not to re-establish the sanctions committee, and not to introduce sanctions that allegedly have been reintroduced. So we'll be living in two parallel realities, because for some snapback happened, for us it didn't. That creates a problem. How we will get out of it, let's see. Today we did not discuss it extensively during the presidential breakfast, but the matter was invoked, I would put it that way. We are not, frankly, happy that the Secretary General rushed to implement the resolution, which has obvious legal flaws, which was stressing all the time.
Hi, Ambassador Shudachi with China Central Television. First, wish you a successful month. We also noticed that in the program of work, there are no meetings concerning the Ukrainian issue. As the President of Security Council, how are you planning to solve this issue within this month?
First of all, congratulations on the 76th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, which happens exactly today. Today at the presidential breakfast, a number of delegations, you guess which, raised the issue, saying that they might be asking for a meeting on Ukraine. We are fair presidency. If that request will come in due form, we will accommodate it, of course.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Alexeyev, RIA Novosti, and good luck for this busy month. You've mentioned two signature events on 23rd and 24th of October. Should we expect Foreign Minister Lavrov to attend those meetings?
That's what we are anticipating. That has not yet been confirmed, but we are looking forward to his participation, and hopefully that will be the case.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A follow-up on Iran first. Does that mean that Russia will not impose any sanctions or recognize the imposition of sanctions and just keep its current snapback dealings with Iran? And do you foresee any future, possibly soon, discussions among the 5 remaining JCPOA members on this issue, and also, of course, with Iran?
As I said, for us, snapback did not happen. For us, Resolution 2231 expires 18th of October 2025, as it was envisaged to expire. And that is the answer to your first question. And secondly, you know that, in fact, Iran was in intensive consultations with the Euro Troika before they came with their draft that passed on Friday, and they were very close to a deal. But then they were told by a certain former participant of the JCPOA, from whom the whole thing started. The first initial original sin was committed by that country in 2018, if you remember it. They told no, and the Europeans said yes, sir, and everything collapsed. Now they keep saying that we're ready to continue dialogue and look for the political solution, but frankly, they demonstrated that they are just cronies and proxies of a country who decides everything. They do not decide it. We are looking forward to direct negotiations, direct, indirect, whatever, those that will bring a result anyway, with the United States. As far as we know, such dialogue is not in effect at this time. What will happen, we don't know, but we were saying that this development is really fraught with a major escalation around Iran, because it opens the door for those countries who want to finish Iran's nuclear program, which they didn't finish on June 12th. And that is again another destabilizing factor in the Middle East, which is already in a very bad shape.
A quick follow-up. You're clearly referring to the U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA, which happened in 2018. When you say that snapback is basically illegal, can you explain to us again Russia's reasoning? Is it because of the U.S. withdrawal?
Not because of the U.S. withdrawal. U.S. withdrawal happened in 2018, and for the whole year, Iran continued to implement Resolution 2231 and the provisions of the JCPOA fully, saying that they wait for the U.S. to come back to the original participants of the JCPOA. Then Iran started to make its own moves, stressing all the time that it's all reversible, provided the violator will fulfill its commitments. Now, U.S. could not invoke snapback because they are not members of the agreement anymore. Who did is the Euro Troika. They claim, you know, in the resolution there is a provision on the so-called dispute resolution mechanism, which they claim they invoked, which they never did, in fact. They never did. They said that they performed every act of diplomacy to convince Iran to abide, offering it the best solutions they could offer. We know what these offers were, and they were not worth anything that was acceptable to Iran, and we understood it fully. They did not invoke the dispute resolution mechanism. After certain provisions of the resolution expired on 18th of October 2023, lifting sanctions on Iran on certain provisions, the European countries reintroduced them in their national jurisdictions, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, by the EU itself, thus violating the resolution de facto. And now they claim that they did everything they could, and that's why they're invoking snapback. For us, dispute resolution mechanism was never involved. The fact that they reintroduced the same sanctions that were lifted deprives them of the right to invoke any snapback. There is, you know, that in jurisprudence there is this doctrine of clean hands and pacta sunt servanda. The violator of the provisions of a certain legal agreement deprives itself of a right to use mechanisms that are provided for in the document that they're referring to, since they are violating it fully themselves. You asked also whether the idea of the original participants of the JCPOA is somewhere on the horizon. I wouldn't say so. The Euro-Troika is not very much eager to talk in this format, not only with us but with China as well, and that is explicable to us. Besides our political problems in other areas, because they know who is calling the shots, and the US is calling the shots, and they listen to them and catch every hint or word that may come from the US administration.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I echo, this is Gabriel Elizondo from Al Jazeera English. I echo the comments of my colleagues wishing you the best of luck in this busy month ahead. My question is about the selection of the next Secretary General. As you very well know, the process begins with a letter from the President of the Security Council, co-signed by the President of the General Assembly. This obviously puts it in your lap should you decide to pursue this month. Is that something that we can expect? And if so, do you have a certain time frame or date picked out that you're thinking about at this point? Thank you.
You can expect, yes. Indeed, we are planning to start the process during our presidency. As you rightly said, it's a joint letter by the President of the Security Council and the President of the General Assembly. It doesn't mean that the letter will come during our presidency. Last time, when when the Secretary General was elected, that letter, joint letter, came, I think, in the middle of December. Yesterday, I visited PGA to brief her on our presidential program for the Security Council, and I raised that question with her. She is in full agreement. We decided that we'll prepare a zero draft and then discuss it both within the Security Council and with the President of the General Assembly, and we'll come up with a joint draft initiating the process of selection of the Secretary General. So I hope that by the end of the year, or maybe earlier, we can expect that such letter will find way out.
Michelle.
Thank you, Ambassador, for the briefing, and good luck for the month. Couple more questions on the nuclear issue, but in relation to some different countries.
I'm not a nuclear scientist. You have to
President Putin offered the US an extension on New START. Have you received a response on that? And if not, are you concerned that you haven't received a response?
To my knowledge, nothing official from the US administration yet. I understand they were busy with the high level and other things. I remember the comment by I think the White House press secretary saying that they will study it and will come with a reply. But we are still expecting a reaction from the side to which the offer was extended.
And then just another quick one on North Korea. The Vice Foreign Minister was here and spoke to the GA on Monday, and he said that denuclearization cannot be discussed. They'll never give up their nuclear program. Does Russia still believe that North Korea should give up its nuclear program and that there should be denuclearization?
You should not be asking Russia whether it believes it or not, but what the official DPRK deputy foreign minister said is a reality in which we live, and that is already in their constitution. So, I mean, you may like it or not like it, but this is the reality. And the reality justified by the threats that the DPRK experiences, because it's not just even a security dilemma. They really feel threatened by what is happening around the Korean Peninsula, by the activities, military activities, provocative activities by the Troika, namely US, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. So again, this is the reality we are facing.
So Russia recognizes a nuclear-armed North Korea?
I mean, we don't have to recognize it because it's an open secret. I mean, they are not hiding that. Like some other countries, I will not name them, but you know the names. That they are de facto nuclear powers.
Ms. Hum, please.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Bisan Abu Quick with Al Jazeera Arabic. I wanted to ask you about the plan that was presented by President Trump this week for Gaza. What is Russia's position on it? And do you anticipate this would be part of a discussion later on this month in the Council? And I have a second question, if you want to answer.
I'm pretty sure that will be an issue for discussion in the Security Council, and even before that, before we meet on the Middle East second part of October. You know, Russia from not even day one, day two, was calling for a ceasefire, and we welcome any efforts that would lead to ceasefire and ending the bloodshed. That continues to happen. We know that some of the Arab countries and the Muslim countries already gave positive response to the plan. There are still issues that need to be clarified, and first and foremost, what the Palestinians and other Arabs around in the region are thinking about that plan. One thing that transpired immediately is that not many Arabs are very happy with the role Tony Blair will play in the whole exercise, because they consider him the warmonger and the guy who ignited the whole region with the Iraqi war. He was, you know, the staunchest supporter of the US invasion. So let's see. We need the reaction first and foremost. But if the bloodshed finishes and the ceasefire finally comes into force, we would only be happy, because too many lives have been really wasted, lost, killed, you know.
And just one more question on the global flotilla. They're actually news now that they are on high alert because they're reaching the flotilla. The flotilla, the flotilla. We've heard calls to protect them. There seems that there's news now that they are being intercepted or close to being intercepted, if you have any position on that.
Look, I heard that a number of leaders called on the flotilla not to rush with their plans, so to say, not to provoke, especially during this time when this plan came out, and we don't yet know whether it is implementable or not. I mean, I'm sure that they have good intentions, but perhaps the timing is not exactly the right one for them to come there.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Evgeny. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. My name is Susan Tehrani from WION, India. The U.S. may authorize Ukraine to use Tomahawk cruise missiles under the direction of President Trump under his oversight. Would Russia interpret this as a red line, and where would this leave relations with the United States? Thank you.
I think that has been already commented, in particular by Minister Lavrov, who said that first of all, it's not a done deal. It's not the fact that they really will transfer Tomahawks to the Ukrainians. Secondly, he said that whether transferred or not transferred, it will not change the situation on the battlefield. I'm sure that we will find, if needed, we will find a response to that move if that happens.
Ephraim, please.
Thanks, Ambassador. Quick question about the meeting on the ICJ. What is it about? Can you tell us something about it?
That's a regular meeting during the so-called Law Week in the UN, which happens this year, starting from the 27th of October. Many legal people are coming from the member states and the international bodies that deal with legal issues, and that's a regular briefing by the president of the ICJ, this time a Japanese, Iwasawa, who will interact with the members of the Security Council on the work of the ICJ. Last year it happened with the current Lebanese Prime Minister, who was the president at that time.
Please.
Thank you, Ambassador, and then good luck for your presidency. My name is Yu from Kyoto News, Japanese news agency. I have follow-up question about signature event on October 24. Are you ready for any outcome document like presidential press statement or whatever? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I perhaps forgot to mention it, that we will come with a draft PRST. We already announced it today to ambassadors on the role of the UN in the current world and in the future, the role which is indispensable. I mean, you cannot, you would have had to invent it if it didn't exist. That's clear, and the founding fathers were wise enough to seize the moment, the right time after the Second World War. Yes, we are planning this and hope that we will succeed in coming up with the PRST.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I'm Zahra Hojabri from IRNA, Islamic Republic News Agency. Congratulations on your presidency of the Security Council. October 18 marks the end of the resolution 2231 and the remaining restriction of Iran. What is your view on this development? In your opinion, will all the sanctions against Iran have ended by that time?
I think I already answered that question. For us, resolution 2231 expires 18th of October 2025, and we do not see the reasons why we should disagree with that. I mean, for us it's clear, and I think I quite extensively answered that already.
Lady, please.
Hi, Ambassador. Congratulations for the presidency this month. And the U.S. is threatening with hitting Russia with sanctions. There is a chance that that could be brought to the Security Council if they pursue that path. What would be your position if you are forced to bring up something that is actually attacking your country?
You mean U.S. is actually attacking my country? You mean that?
With sanctions.
These are not Security Council sanctions, so they will not formally discussed in the Council. Yes, we hear talks about sanctions, that President Trump alludes to from time to time, but you have to understand that that President Trump has, besides international, he has domestic audience to which he has to heed. He said recently, quite recently, that they would be ready to consider introducing new sanctions on Russia if the Europeans will share the burden. He said many other things about the sanctions. Whether that'll be the case, we will see, but President Trump is a special kind of politician. I mean, he likes quick fixes. And this is a situation where quick fixes do not work. So I don't know what will happen to the sanctions, but we've seen them so many that I will not be surprised to see new ones. We already adapted to the old ones, and we live in them for 2.5 years. If something like that happens, I think we'll find a way how to deal with them.
Because I understand that they couldn't be UN sanctions since Russia would veto them at the Security Council.
They cannot be UN sanctions.
Exactly, they couldn't be that kind. But it could be a debate about them.
To sanction us, frankly.
But there could be a debate about them. There could be a debate, right?
A debate can be about anything in the Security Council. I mean, we cannot prevent a debate because the Council is established for debates, but it also is established for maintaining international peace and security, which unfortunately he doesn't live up to in recent years very often.
Please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Stefano Vaccara, Ital Press, La Voce di New York. Your foreign minister a few days ago said that actually with President Trump, Russia is able to work better, much better than before. So my question, one question, then I have another one, is the same thing for you with Ambassador Valls that just came, Mike Valls, the new ambassador? Do you think he's easier? I mean, did you have an approach already with him? What do you think about him?
I had a courtesy call from Ambassador Waltz yesterday. We had a very good conversation. We pledged to work together. As you know, when Lavrov met Rubio and Waltz in Riyadh, Marco Rubio said to him, look, we are two nuclear powers with the ability to destroy each other 10 times or more. And of course, not all we see many things differently, and we have to recognize it. But it's stupid not to talk even about the differences. And there are areas where we can work together, and we will be gladly doing that if our positions coincide. Same I can apply to our cooperation with the US here in the United Nations. You may not notice it. You may see differences more often than agreements which do not become public that we have with the US. But of course, you're looking as with your sharp correspondent eyes. You're looking for the differences and for the hot subjects. But we had a very good meeting, and I hope that will be the case during his stay here. To give you an opinion about Mike Waltz now would be a little bit too premature for me, but I liked the way we talked. I liked him, and I think that was maybe it's a bit self-flattering, but I think that was reciprocal.
Good. And then it's about the role of the UN. You just say that, you know, Russia thinks it's indispensable, but this last week we heard a lot of very important leaders that didn't think like this. First, President Trump in the assembly, he said how he didn't basically had any help by the UN. And And I think he was referring to Middle East, but maybe also on the situation with Ukraine and Russia. So at the same time, the foreign minister of Italy here in this building told us, journalists, that the UN didn't help to prevent the war between Russia and Ukraine because, for example, if I had only sent Silvio Berlusconi to his friend, President Putin, Berlusconi would have prevented the war. So my question is, what do you think about this? What President Trump said about the UN? What Foreign Minister Tajani said about the UN? And if you think what the UN really has to do, and especially this leadership, the leadership of this Secretary General, what should do to help President Trump, whoever wants peace between Russia and Ukraine, what should do that didn't do yet?
I think that when referring to UN that didn't help, President Trump also referred to the escalator, broken escalator and the broken teleprompter. UN, we say UN doesn't help, UN doesn't fulfill, UN doesn't implement. UN is a reflection of the geopolitical situation that is in the world. And it is, to blame UN for it, and what kind of UN we mean? Secretariat? For me, UN is a sum of its member states, first and foremost. Of course, Secretariat plays sometimes an important and often too independent role in the United Nations. But UN are member states, and if member states cannot agree on anything, it is unfair to blame UN for it. Margaret Thatcher said once that if you want to blame UN, go and look into the mirror, because it's about you. You have to blame yourself, first of all, and those you cannot make deals with. Coming back to the previous question, which is related, I think President Trump is the first of the world leaders who said a thing that we've been saying time and again about the root causes of the conflict. He referred to the NATO expansion, which he said should have never happened. He was saying, it is not my war, it's Biden's war. What Europeans are trying to do now, they are trying to make him participate in the Biden's war. And we see it clearly and vividly. President Trump wanted a quick fix in Ukraine, the ceasefire. We've seen ceasefires before. We've seen ceasefires under Minsk agreements. We saw how they were violated the first day they were concluded, which finally led to what is happening today. But again, Trump was the first world leader who said that NATO expansion was one of the reasons why the whole thing started. Yes, he perhaps did not understand very well the root causes besides NATO expansion, because there are issues that were not clear to him. For example, Minister Lavrov was telling me, who was present in Anchorage during the conversation, when President Putin said to President Trump that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the canonical one, not the one that they tried to install instead of it, but the canonical one, was banned in Ukraine, President Trump couldn't believe it. He was asking like 5 times, is it true? Is it true? And that is true. That the Russian language that is a spoken language, not just for the half of Ukraine. Guess what language, say, Zelensky speaks with his closed ones at home and in the office when nobody hears him. You think Ukrainian? You're wrong. There are things that skip the minds of those who look at that conflict very superficially. And I think that Putin, who has a gift for convincing people and getting his point across, said to President Trump a few things that he might have not realized. So coming back to UN, to blame UN is to blame ourselves for the for the miserable state of geopolitical affairs that we witness today. We see, yes, of course, nobody likes to lose its dominance that lasted 500 plus years. I mean, the West, nobody of them like the new rising polars of the world, and the world is really becoming multipolar. Nobody denies that, even those who don't like it. And the role of the global South, that it requires and demands to play in the international arena. So we are witnessing tectonic changes in the world. The question is that these tectonic changes should be political and hopefully not military, so to say, because too much conversations about the Third World War. And you see what is happening in Europe today. They are seriously preparing for the war in Russia. This drone wall, the rearmament, people who pretend to be serious, seriously speak that Russia is preparing to attack Europe. I mean, this warmongering. You know, when that's like in the old Russian play, that when the rifle is hanging on the wall, one day it will fire, even without being pressed. These talks are not leading us to anywhere where we can resolve these things. And besides, Europe, I'm sorry to say it, I love Europe. I traveled a lot around Europe. Europe is of course culturally very close to Russia, but look at the state of the European politics today. I mean, they are miserable, simply miserable. Where are these people? Where are the giants of politics? Like, I mean, you may have agreed with them, you may have disagreed with them, but people the caliber of Churchill, De Gaulle, Giscard d'Estaing, Kohl, they don't exist anymore. These are all dwarfs. Who besides everything? They stupidly refuse to engage with Russia, thinking that they can solve it themselves, but they are not solving them themselves. They're still looking across the ocean. Whatever comes out of they will follow. And indeed, after Anchorage, after there were some signs on the horizon that the conflict may take a positive turn, they rushed to the White House to convince Trump that it shouldn't be done, and that he should continue to make Trump engage in what he calls Biden.
Ambassador, just because you didn't answer one question, if you thought Berlusconi, the friend of President Putin, because let's remember that Berlusconi wanted Russia in the NATO, within the NATO. And then, this is my personal opinion, I think Russia is Europe. I mean, when I was going to school, all through elementary and so on, I learned in Italy that Russia is, at least the European Russia, you know, if you don't go too far away in Asia, but it's part of Europe. So for me, it's not good when you say, I went to Europe, I went around. I think you should say, we are part of Europe too.
There was a Russia-EU summit once in Vladivostok. Dmitry knows it better because he was dealing with that. And I do not recall who was then at the head of the European Union when there was this summit there in Vladivostok, which is Far East. And he was saying, I cannot believe it. I'm in the Far East, in Vladivostok, but I feel myself in Europe. Partly an answer to your question. On Berlusconi, look, I think Berlusconi is an intelligent man, despite being very charismatic and a character. And I don't think he would try to convince President Putin in the things that President Putin is convinced himself. I think that it's much more probable that President Putin would have convinced Berlusconi about his position than otherwise.
Lenka, please.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Good luck with your presidency. Further on the cooperation with the new U.S. Ambassador White-Maltz, if you may, we are just very curious. I know it's a bit forward-looking, but what are the areas you expect to see that you can cooperate on? We know that the Foreign Minister Lavrov said some of the areas are, for example, energy and space. But what are the areas you foresee in the Security Council? Thank you.
I'm not directly responsible for energy or space exploration, but here in the UN there are, well, across the board, first of all, we cooperate. Cooperation doesn't mean agreement all the time. But one thing which comes to mind immediately is Syria. We are both pen holders on the Syrian file with the US a long time. Secondly, we have many things in common on the understanding of the say energy transition. I like the US position, common sense position on the gender issues, on climate. Perhaps it's a little bit too radical how President Trump presented it, but in essence, you cannot make an idol of that thing. You know, as he rightly said, there was a climate. How did he call it? Not him. But it was a term. Climate. Whether. I forgot the name, but I mean, even the term climate change appeared. Sorry. He did call it a scam, but I'm not talking about the scam. I say that even the term climate change surfaced quite recently in the discussions. There are many things that Americans are taking very common sense-wise, and that is something that we can always cooperate with them on. In the Security Council, again, I mean, one thing where we differ with them in the Council, and not just us, but I think the rest of the Council, is the situation in Gaza, of course, and in the Middle East, how they see it. Let's see what will happen out of the recent President Trump's plan on Gaza. Hopefully, it will work. But before that, you know that they vetoed resolutions on Gaza, which were humanitarian, which called for what they always insisted on the release of the hostages, etc. They still vetoed it. Perhaps, hopefully, President Trump's plan will make a difference. There are other issues which, in fact, all the issues in the Security Council we discuss with the Americans. They cannot avoid it. We cannot avoid it. So cooperation is across the board. The question is not on all the questions we come to an agreement.